and studied at FAMU, which is one of the best HBCUs. And so, but as I got into the work, what was coming from within me was more than marketing. And so I didn't have a business title that existed to describe what I actually did on a day-to-day basis, so I created a title. And so I am the legacy preserver of Hot Sands. And so it's also important to note here that anything that comes from me, and probably it's true for you all, or anything that is good or creative comes from God. And so he simply gives it to me and gives it to you all, which still amazes me that he wants to use us, little us, that he wants to use us. And so he brought forth Legacy Preserver out of me. And so let's talk about what is a legacy. A legacy is literally an inheritance. It is passed on from generation one to another, from generation to generation. Why don't you all say it with me? Say generation.
Generation.
And so to preserve something means to keep it safe, to protect it, to keep it alive. And so there are things that I do and create that are specific for the legacy preservation of Hot Sands. So let me back up. Me being in this position today did not come easy because there are two owners of Hot Sands. Y'all may know them. One is here. He's my father. The other is at the store holding it down. And so they both work at the store. They both worked at the store before purchasing the store in 1994. And again, one is my father. So let's paint the picture here. They're older than me, right? They have been working longer than me. They have been doing things a certain way for a certain period of time. They have seen some successes from doing those things. And so now here I come, right? With potentially a new way. Say that with me, new way. And so if I had to title this talk today or this message, it would be called Prepare the Way and Pass the Baton. I want to stop here and say that's very interesting. When I opened the program and I looked at the program, if you all look at it, what does it say in there? Yeah, I didn't know that. See, I didn't know that. This is how divinely things align, right? And so I looked at Regina, I said, this is what the title is. And I said, look at my notes. And I showed her that this is what I was talking about as well. So we're divinely aligned. So again, here I come into the store. And so I want us to think about, just because we have done things a way for a certain time does not mean that that way will always work. So let me say it this way. The Bible would say it this way. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And that's in Ecclesiastes, right? So I come in with a new way. Say that with me again. New way.
New way.
Yes, there's hesitancy. There is pushback. There is control, there is fear, there is probably uncertainty, but God's plan and way must go forth. So when you are divinely aligned, sometimes there is a push through opposition. When you've done all you can in the natural state is when God steps in and does the supernatural. So there is no thwarting, there is no stopping the plans of God. Psalms would say it this way, but the plans of the Lord stand firm forever. The purposes of his heart through all generations. So see, Jesus was and is the plan of God. Jesus came with a what? A new way.
A new way.
Jesus was and is the way from the opposition to get to the cross, beaten, bloody, bruised, but he made it to fulfill the plan of God. So I'm getting a little beyond myself because I want to take root and residency at the idea of this new way. I use a lot of biblical references because I think it's just the greatest book. So John the Baptist prepared the way for Jesus. Moses prepared the way for Joshua. David prepared the way for Samuel. I know somebody knows what I'm talking about here, right? Paul prepared the way for Timothy. So now pay attention. The leading name was and is great in its own right. You know John the Baptist, right? Yeah. You know Moses. If any of you all don't know, just open up the Bible and then you'll get some of these names. You know Paul. But even in their greatness, there was and still is more. Yeah. The plans of God are eternal. The legacy of God is to be kept alive. Yeah. How will it be kept alive when we all die? Succession. Right? So what is a successor? It's a person or a thing that succeeds another. legacy to live on, it needs a successor. It needs a succession plan. Otherwise, it what? It dies, right? So true legacy lives beyond the moment. True legacy lives beyond the present individual. True legacy keeps in mind those who have, who it's received from, as well as those who it's imparting into. Legacy is always generational in its impact. Jesus is the succession plan of God. So I want us to consider, who is our successor? What is your succession plan? And this can be in business. It can just be in life. How will your legacy live on? Moreover, what will your legacy be? What is it, or who is it you will pass on? So let me digress a little bit just to progress a little forward. Some leaders are hesitant to empower their younger people or the next generation. I'm going to speak truth today, okay? Because God gave me this message. He gave it to me about Tuesday morning. I think I told Regina that day. I said, it was just flowing from me. It was like I literally it just came out. And so I want to share it with you because I think it's important. Anything that comes from God is important. So some leaders are hesitant to empower their younger people or the next generation. It might be fearing that they'll be out of a job if they do, or that they are no longer significant. All of that is worldly and fleshly concerns, very real and valid, but not as concerning to God as is his plan of legacy and succession, which is at hand and will go forth one way or the other. So Psalm 78 says this of God's past words and deeds: we will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach them to their children, so the next generation might know them, even the children not yet born. And they, in turn, will teach their own children. So each generation should set its hope anew on God, not forgetting his glorious miracles and obeying his commands. Then they will not be like their ancestors, stubborn, rebellious, and unfaithful, refusing to give their hearts to God. See, this was not a suggestion. God commanded his people to take what they had learned and transmit it to the coming generations. So we too must learn to think and act generationally. Say that word again, generationally. If we are ever to see the purposes of God fulfilled, his design is for generations to be connected as a continuation or as a preservation or preserving of the legacy. All legacy involves success, but not all success involves legacy. Leaving a successful legacy is not just about what we do, but also about how well we set the next generation up to go beyond what we have done. Beyond what we have done. So think of this example of Elijah and Elisha. This is in the Bible as well. Elisha didn't merely continue the ministry of Elijah, he increased it and multiplied it. Say increase.
Increase.
Say multiply.
Multiply.
He was the man of the double portion. They called you that today, Regina, the double portion. Elisha went on to have his own powerful ministry, but remembering his ministry was the fruit of Elijah's legacy. See, again, God is a generational God. So that business, that family, that creation was not created or birthed just for you so that it stops and ends with you. No. We prepare the way now so that it will surpass you and even supersede you. That is the will of God. And so, Regina, your books today, they were birthed out of your mentor, I believe you told me, preparing the way for you. And through your books, other leaders will understand the importance of legacy building. This is not a happenstance that I am standing here, a 39-year-old woman, talking about preparing the way and passing the baton. This is the plan of God. I know this was God's plan because Regina told me she prayed and went before the Lord about who would be the keynote speaker after something had happened with your initial one, right? And so I believe that the initial one may have been older, may have been even more experienced. And then God told you Lauren. And it's because he had a specific and a timely message about legacy and longevity and divinity that he wanted to share today. And he knew that I would share it if he gave it to me. So guard your heart against resistance and resentment when you see younger believers or a younger generation surpassing you in achievement and in influence. This is the goodwill of God, because God is a good God. So we shouldn't feel threatened by the big dreams of the young people in our midst. We ought to encourage them, or better yet, help them build. And to anyone in here who is the next generation, prepare yourselves so that you are found ready. And so from generation to generation, there will be a new way. And even now, at 39 years old, I see a new way beyond me. And so who will I pass the baton to? And so to Regina and the Alexis Company, thank you for allowing me to speak. And to everyone here that is present, thank you for hearing me speak. Not necessarily my words, but the word of God. And so I thank you all. Prepare the way and pass the baton.